On today's show, we look at the top 25 NHL affiliated prospects. We'll rank these prospects, talk about their games, and all that good stuff on today's episode of Locked On NHL Prospects.
You are Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this podcast, we break down everything prospects related for you 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. I'm Hattie Kalakash, Director of North American Scouting for Dalibor Prospects, joined by Sebastian High, Director of European Scouting for Dalibor Prospects. And on today's show, we'll be breaking down the top 25 NHL affiliated prospects. We're going to start off at 25 and work our way up. We're going to go through this pretty quickly because there's, again, 25 prospects to run through, and this is a 30-minute show. If you like this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe. Leave us a comment letting us know what you think of the episode, what you think of our rankings. If a guy's too high, too low, we're more than happy to hear you out in the comments. And if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform, please leave us a rate and review and make sure to make us your first listen of the day. So let's get things started right away here at number 25, and we've got Dalibor Dvorsky. He was playing in the Allsvenskan in his draft year over in Sweden in the second division of pro hockey. Played some decent minutes, but didn't really put up much production. Moved over to the OHL with the Sudbury Wolves in his draft plus one. Has been really took a step up in his production, in his overall game. He's a big physical center. He loves to get down low on players along the boards, kind of use a center of gravity to win puck battles. A great scorer, a great playmaker. He's got decent hands, good vision. There's a lot to work with in his game here. And I think Dvorsky is going to be a really good NHLer. He's got a lot of skills there that work at the NHL level. So definitely a prospect to keep a lookout for in the next few years as he develops. Let's move right on to number 24 and a prospect that we both like pretty much all year, and Michael Nugard. Talk me through his game and why he was selected at 15th overall to the Detroit Red Wings. First and foremost, the most Red Wings pick we can think of, right?
Yes, I mean, they've picked a very similar profile now, 3 drafts running in the first round with Marco Kasper, Nate Danielson, and Michael Nugard. But Nugard is a player that I have adored all season long. This is a guy with a really big frame. He's a real power forward. He's pretty like a north-south type of player, but great puck protector and an elite level defensive forward. He was playing like Dvorsky in his draft year in the Allsvenskan, but was playing far better hockey at that level than Dvorsky had been a year prior. He was elite in the defensive zone. He was likely the best defensive forward in that entire Mora IK lineup, which earned him top 6 minutes for a really good chunk of the season. And after the World Junior break, he came back and started scoring a lot of goals as well. He has a really hard release. Very accurate shooter. He has good habits in the offensive zone, gets to the dangerous areas. He's a good net front presence. Does a lot of the small things extremely well, and I think he could be a capable NHLer in even just a year's time after he plays his first season in the SHL. But a very different style of player is next up on our list, another 2024 eligible who does not have the same strengths as Michael Nugard, apart from a very hard shot. So talk me through Cole Eiserman's game.
For sure. I mean, I can't name you 2 more different prospects off of the puck than Michael Nugard at 24 and now Cole Eiserman at 23. Eiserman was by far and away the best goal scorer in the 2024 NHL draft. Yes, any scout, any analyst, anyone who's watched any 2024 NHL draft tape, and they'll agree with that take. Eiserman has an absolutely wicked release. His shots are powerful, accurate. He shoots inside of weight transfers really well. Eiserman can kind of pull the puck into his feet and shoot it in motion really well. Great one-timer as well from the half wall. And on top of that, Eiserman's off-puck movement is fantastic. The way he finds space in the offensive zone, the way he kind of shuffles his feet to get into the little pockets of space off the puck. Everything about his game revolves around goal scoring. That's both a good thing because he's such a good shooter, but also a bad thing because he overlooks passing lanes off the puck, kind of forgets to pass the puck at times when he's got it. And defensively, he's not just a non-factor, he's a liability. So that's what keeps him lower down our list, but the goal scoring ability is just off the charts with Eiserman, and I think that he could become a 40, 45, 50 goal scorer in the NHL if he's developed properly. I'm not sure the New York Islanders are the right team in order to get the most out of him, just based on their history with these types of picks. Oliver Wahlstrom didn't work out too well for them. He's a pretty similar mold in terms of the way he plays, the way he approaches the game as Eiserman. But yeah, Yzerman still has enough skill to make this ranking for sure. Let's move on to 22nd overall. We've got Konsta Helenius here at 22, and another major difference in skill sets between 23 and 22 here with Helenius, right?
Yes, I mean, Hellenius is the next best defensive forward in the draft class after Michael Brandstad-Nugard. So you kind of have Yzerman sandwiched between two high-end defensive forwards here, which is a little bit entertaining to see on a list like this. But Konsta Hellenius is a highly intelligent centerman who played really good professional minutes last season in Liga for Jukurit, and he was a real facilitator of play on puck. He's not the biggest like raw playmaker in the world. He has good playmaking ability, but he's not like a true play creator. But he is a really good facilitator of play. He connects his line. He's able to quarterback play and get the puck to the areas where dangerous plays can happen, rather than being the one who sparks those said dangerous plays. His ability to score goals from medium range is also something I liked a decent amount last season. He's going to have to work a little bit on his skating in order to be an impactful second line piece in the NHL. But the way he processes the game, the way he approaches the game, and his overall habits on both sides of the puck, I think are really going to facilitate him hitting that 2C upside that he has. The top line potential, I think, is pretty murky at this stage with some tool limitations with him. But with the Buffalo Sabres, if he ends up being like the stalwart 2C that they can continue to build around, I think they'll have gotten really good value with that selection. But next, talk me through one of your favorite defensemen from the 2023 draft class, in Axel Sandin-Pellikka.
Absolutely. I thought he was a steal for the Detroit Red Wings at 17th overall when they selected him there. Fantastic puck moving defenseman. What really makes Sandin-Pellikka special is just his ability to consistently find the right passing lanes and transition. On the breakout, amazing passing ability, but is also comfortable carrying the puck up to the neutral zone and then kind of feathering a pass to a teammate in stride in order for them to access the zone. He's had fantastic results so far in the SHL. And yeah, he's been looking really, really good for the Detroit Red Wings there. I think Axel Sandin-Pellikka has a lot of upside. For me personally, I see him as a really kind of bona fide number 3 defenseman moving forward in terms of the real upside that he has. I think that kind of skill set, that ability is quite rare to find, and every great team has at least one player like this on their blue line who can control play, dictate what's going on, all that good stuff. But let's move right on to Denton Mateychuk at 20th overall. Denton Mateychuk, I think, is a step up above Axel Sandin-Pellikka in terms of chaos, right? Like he is, he's actually reined it in since his draft year, but in his draft year, I mean, he was chasing his own dump-ins. He was just, activating down low, going behind the net, trying to, wrap around goals, that kind of stuff as a defenseman. He's a left shot D, average size about 5'11", 185 pounds. And he's been looking really, really good so far in the WHL. He was, for me, the best defenseman in the dub last year. And that's just grown his game even further, especially in the Memorial Cup where he played with the likes of Matt Savoy and Jagger Fergus and all that. It was very, very clear that he was able to dictate play and keep up with those guys in terms of mindset. But let's move right on to number 19th overall. Prospect that's been contentious, but we still have him pretty decently high on this ranking. And Anton Silayev, the massive 6'7", 200-pound defenseman. Talk me through why he makes the top 20.
I mean, elite raw tools. Like his combination of range, physicality, and mobility is unparalleled for any prospect in hockey, period, at this stage. He's 6'7". He skates like the wind. He was a top 3 skater in the entire 2024 draft class, not even accounting for size, which is kind of surreal when you think about it for too long. And when he wants to close his gaps, he can do so with unparalleled aggression and quickness. He needs 1.5, 2 strides, and he can close a gap from basically wherever he's standing on the ice with the amount of power he has in his legs. And while the on-puck game still needs a ton of work, it is really raw. He's still very hesitant under pressure. The offensive ability is very limited. He's not a play creator. He's becoming a distributor in the offensive zone, but even that's a relatively slow process. He has some decent passing mechanics, but it really falls apart quickly when he is pressured. There's a lot of question marks with his overall projection. That said, if he stays the same player that he is today with just minor improvements in those habits, I still think he's going to be a third pairing defenseman. And I think if he's able to really work significantly on those issues, looking at a guy that can be a unicorn type player on a second pairing that brings you something that every single NHL team wants in their top four. So I think there's a lot to like with Silayev. I think that New Jersey is going to really be excited to have this style of player in their organization. And I think it'll help a lot that he won't have any pressure to be a first pairing guy ahead of guys like Luke Hughes and Simon Nemec. I think that'll be really helpful for his development too. But wrap up here the first segment with our 18th overall prospect here, again from the Sudbury Wolves of the OHL, Quentin Musty.
Yeah, so Quentin Musty for me is just, he's the epitome of just raw skill, right? Like he's a massive player at like 6'3", 200 pounds. He's got a great frame on him, fantastic skating, and the puck skills really stood out in this draft here. I was a big fan of his ability to take that skill and turn it into something interesting. The main question earlier on in this draft here was hockey sense. Like he didn't really seem like he understood how to create offense at a high level. I think that got up to about average level by the end of his draft here, but since then, he's been absolutely firing on all cylinders for the Sudbury Wolves. He's been fantastic for them as their kind of primary center, their primary offensive creator. And he's just taken off. I think that, the San Jose Sharks have developed something really interesting with their forward core. And Quentin Musty's kind of the guy that I think flies under the radar a bit behind the likes of obviously Will Smith and William Eklund and all that, but he's got bona fide top six upside. I think he's got fantastic skill, and he's learning to develop that skill into something interesting, something translatable at least as he moves forward. So that's why he makes it at 18th overall. But that's our first segment done. We'll get into our second segment here where we talk about picks 17 through 9 in our rankings. We'll get into that in just a second, but just before, a quick word from our sponsors at FanDuel.
I love sports. I love them so much that I just never want them to stop, which makes the off-season a difficult time of year for me. That said, FanDuel still keeps the sports going all season long throughout the summertime, and all I have to do is open up the app and dream up any bets any single time that I want to and that I'm in the mood for it. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. Even though many of the major leagues are currently finished for the year, whether it be the NHL playoffs or even the Euros or Copa America in the world of soccer, that said, there's still a lot more to get excited for, whether it be golf, whether it be Major League Baseball, whatever might float your boat during the summer months. The choice is yours with FanDuel. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Alrighty, so moving forward, we've got our pick 17 through 9 in our top 25 NHL-affiliated prospects rankings. And we start off at 17th overall with a pretty interesting prospect from the Seattle Kraken's organization, and it's Berkly Catton, the prospect they just added in the 2024 NHL draft at, I want to say 8th overall. Was that 8th overall? It was 8th overall. Perfect. He's a bit, I would say undersized, yes, 5'11", 165, 170 pounds. He's a left shot, mainly winger. He's played center as well, but I think that's mainly by default due to how poor the Spokane Chiefs were this past year. But yeah, he's been playing like 30 minutes a night in the WHL because there's basically no one else forward on that team that can do what he does, which is carry pucks through lines, dice through defenses, just slice open defensive formations and score goals, get assists done. Fantastic handler, fantastic skater. His 3-step acceleration is probably the best in the 2024 NHL draft. On top of having elite hands, elite passing, and a really good in-stride wrister. So he's got a decent foundation to create off the rush. My main concern with Catton is, can he create off the cycle? I haven't seen enough of him on that end to call him a decent cycle offense creator. And he's about average defensively and kind of below average physically, but still, the ability to create offense off the rush is just so ridiculous that I think he's going to make it in the NHL, kind of in like a Matt Barzal style of projection, but at the wing. That brings us to number 16th overall, and we've got a Montreal Canadiens prospect by the name of David Reinbacher. Talk me through Reinbacher's game in detail, what he's done since his draft here, and why he still makes our top 16 here.
Yeah, I mean, Reinbacher is a smooth skating two-way defenseman who's able to leverage refined skating mechanics as well as refined physical tools and a really good understanding of how to shut down play defensively. He's a strong rush defender who keeps a tight gap. He's able to match footwork off the rush very comfortably, and he always keeps himself between the opponent he's covering and his own net. He's very strategic in his body positioning in the defensive zone. With a puck on his stick, he makes a very good first pass in the breakout. The handling ability can still let him down at times, but there have been flashes on that side that have been very, very exciting. I mean, I believe it was his first AHL goal that he scored with a beautiful curl and drag to get around an opponent in the neutral zone. Then he scored off a 2-on-1 break that was created by that wonderful dangle. But overall, this is a player who is defined by his intelligence, his physicality, rather than his pure level of skill. So don't think that Reinbacher is going to be a 50-plus point guy from the blue line in the NHL long term, but he will be a player who can play reliable minutes against tough competition and really stifle out a lot of chances created by his opponents, which is for us enough to still keep him going at 16th on our board here in terms of drafted NHL prospects. And we think that he's going to be a really good number 3, maybe number 2 guy long term if he develops well. But the next player is a very different style of guy. I don't think you can get more polar opposites. And this time it is a winger in Gabe Perreault from Boston College. Talk me through his game and what has him rocketing up our board here.
Absolutely, yeah. He was a rock star for Boston College in the NCAA this past year in his freshman season. Kind of stuck mainly with the kid line there with 2 other prospects that are on this list actually, who we're going to talk about in a second. But I think he was a great selection for the New York Rangers in the 20s, in the in the 2023 NHL draft. Gabe Perreault is the definition of intelligence. Everything he does. Everything he does leads to the puck getting to the right spots at the right moments. His playmaking ability really, really stands out. He loves to kind of settle at the perimeter, catch a puck from a defenseman on the cycle, and just kind of take one quick look and zip a pass across like 3 sticks right on a teammate's stick. And that gels so well with the players he plays with in Boston College, who we're going to talk about there. But yeah, Gabe Perreault is just, like I said, he's a rock star. I love the way that he approaches the game. I love the intelligence, the awareness, the skill that he has, the playmaking ability. My main concern with Perreault is that he's not really the biggest and he's not really the fastest either. So he lacks foot speed and kind of skating mechanics on top of being kind of just, kind of an average to below average physical player as well. But still, there's enough there to work with. There's more than enough skill to make him crack our top 15. Let's move right on to number 14th overall. We have Beckett Sennecke here at 14th overall, selected 3rd overall by the Anaheim Ducks in the 2024 draft. We all saw his reaction to that. Even he was surprised by that. But I think it's still well deserved. I mean, I'll say time and time again, his OHL playoffs tape, his Memorial Cup tape blew me away. It was amazing to watch him go about it. Sennecke went from this kind of awkward, lanky teenager to a full-on stick-handling wizard in the second half of the season. He really put his game together, really figured out what to do with his newfound size because he did grow a lot in a short amount of time. But yeah, Sennecke is one of the best stick handlers on this list. And a really intelligent player, good defensive player. He's got engagement and effort level on the back check. There's just a lot to work with here, and that's why we have him at 14. But talk me through our prospect at 13th overall here. Another big defenseman in Dmitry Simashev, who was selected by the Arizona Coyotes and then moved to Utah. Talk me through why we have him so high here at 13th overall.
He is the best shutdown defenseman that we have like in this entire ranking, and that's the big reason that we have him ranked this high up at 13th. He is a fantastic skater. He is punishing physically. He's very intelligent with how he leverages that physicality defensively. He is impossible to get around almost all the time if you're rushing on his side of the ice. He is like a brick wall often. Yep. And the tape that I've watched of him as a D+1 in the KHL was more of the same that we'd gotten used to, but against far stronger competition. The offensive game is still a bit limited. Don't look to him to be your elite force, offensive force from the blue line long term. But his rush stopping ability, his cycle stopping ability, his net front clearing, his ability to make a strong first pass and use his mobility to open up passing lanes He's very strategic with the puck on his stick. He's composed under pressure, despite lacking elite level problem solving, like physical tools in terms of like handling or elite level passing ability. But he's a good puck protector. He's able to navigate those pressure situations, and I think he's going to be a fantastic defenseman at the NHL level in about 1 or 2 years' time. I don't think he needs much time at all. He's very polished. He's very intelligent. I'm not fully sure what his contract situation's like right now in Russia, but I think once it runs out, he'll be signing his ELC in North America. But the next player is also a bit of a shutdown defenseman, but as the year progressed, our projection shifted significantly from pure stopper to like more of a two-way force in Sam Dickinson from the London Knights.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam Dickinson was absolutely fantastic this past season. He was also in his draft -1 for London. He kind of forced his way into a top 4 role already as such a young defenseman, which isn't something you usually see. It was entirely deserved. I mean, Dickinson is the definition of aggression. He's in your face defensively. He loves to close gaps early, but he's also got the composure as well on top of that layer of aggression to kind of sit back, let plays develop when he needs to, read the play really well. That's what made him such an interesting defensive defenseman in his own zone. But he's also got the confidence in his abilities and the skill in order to just skate the puck up the ice and create chances for himself defensively. I've seen him go end to end multiple times this season. Like, he's comfortable on the puck, and he's one of the best skaters from the 2024 NHL draft. So he's got offensive upside. He's got defensive upside. There's a lot you can work with here with Sam Dickinson. I think he's got the potential to be a number 3, number 4, two-way defenseman. I think there's even room to grow into a number 2 role. I see it as a bit more muddy than a lot of people do, but there's still so much to work with here with Sam Dickinson. He's got so many skills that could work out. The main thing is just kind of improving that ability to read the play really well and kind of be a bit more composed, but that usually comes with time with defensemen. So I'm not worried at all about Dickinson's projection. Let's go right to 11th overall. We have Ryan Leonard, another forward from the Boston College kids line. He ends up at 11th overall, and at times, Ryan Leonard was the best player on Boston College. Dynamic, energetic, offensively gifted, a great scorer, a power forward at times. He's got a lot to work with in this game, and I think overall, the prospect that the Capitals drafted here 9th overall in the 2023 draft, I think that was great value for them. Even though at the time people saw it as kind of a reach, I liked it. I really liked this pick for the Capitals. It makes a lot of sense with what they're trying to build. Ryan Leonard makes a lot of sense for them. Then at 10th overall, we have Zayne Parekh, the prospect who was selected 12th overall, who slipped to 12th overall, I want to clarify, to the Minnesota Wild of all teams. They do it again. Amazing. For me, he was a top 2, top 3 defenseman in the class and should have gone way higher. 6 foot, 180 pounds, but he plays defensively better than most prospects that are bigger than him. Closes gaps really well, so composed, so calm. All the mental elements of his game, I think, are NHL ready. Like, he thinks the game at an NHL level, he processes a game at an NHL level, he anticipates plays really well, on top of being a really shifty, really creative, really inventive player from the blue line. There were sequences this past year that reminded me a lot of Lane Hudson, but on top of that, Bouillam's got decent skating ability, decent mobility, and the ability to close gaps defensively that is a step ahead of Hudson, in my opinion. So there's a lot to work with here with Steve Bouillam. Lastly, for our second segment, talk with your Zayne Parekh's game, because we've both been pretty big fans of Parekh here, and he cracks the top 10.
He does indeed. I mean, he is the most dynamic defenseman. Like that is an NHL prospect at this stage. It is not particularly close either. He is tremendously skilled offensively. He's incredibly intelligent and composed as well, which is something that both Zayne Parekh and Zayne Parekh have going for them. Is they are at their best in high pressure situations. They excel at solving those situations in tight with really creative means as well. And everything that Zayne Parekh was doing offensively in the OHL last season should theoretically work at the NHL level as well. He was not relying on junior level habits. He was not relying on perimeter playmaking. He was getting to the dangerous areas. He was layering deception and manipulation to everything he was doing on the ice. And he has a wicked shot. He's a great playmaker. He's a great puck handler. And you combine those elite level offensive tools with an elite level mind for the game of hockey, and a level of sandpaper defensively as well. Like he's not afraid of getting getting in some dirty little chips and stuff in the defensive zone, and definitely has some fine tuning in his defensive game. I think like he was bear hugging for much of last season in the corners to impede players from getting around him, which also took himself out of those plays often. But he was finding ways, and he's trying things. He was trying to find ways to be as effective as he could defensively. And I don't think he was awful defensively. He had some awful defensive plays, certainly. Like there were some plays that were just rough, but as a whole, a fantastic player, fantastic prospect. Calgary has a really exciting piece here, but we're going to wrap up this top 25 ranking in the final segment with the top 8. And before that, a quick word from our sponsors here at Locked On NHL Prospects.
Alrighty, so let's close this one off here with our top 8 NHL affiliated prospects as of right now. And we'll start off at 8th overall with a prospect who was top 6. Yeah, he was drafted 6th overall by the Utah Hockey Club, their first ever selection, and what a selection to make. Tej Iginla ends up at 8th overall on our rankings. And Iginla's he's just money. The energy, the effort level is off the charts. I think that's kind of the backbone of what makes him so effective. It's what makes him such an effective board battler. In my opinion, the best board battler from the 2024 NHL draft, and among the best in the entire pipelines of all NHL teams. Like he's got such a great ability to spin off of checks, get into the middle of the ice, and make a play. Iginla's just such a good scorer as well. His goal scoring ability is off the charts. He's got a great wrister. But the main thing with Iginla is how often he gets to down low. He gets to dangerous areas for his chances. That's going to translate really well to the NHL moving forward. He's going to be able to replicate the goals that he scores right now at future levels, which you can't say for a lot of goal scorers at this age. Let's move right through to number 7 on our rankings, and it's the second overall pick from the 2024 NHL draft. Artyom Levshunov ends up at 7th overall here. Why does he end up here, not higher?
Yeah, I think we still have a couple questions with Levshunov in terms of like the true upside he's going to reach. I think we both really like his chances of becoming a stabilizing top 4 piece for Chicago long term, who's also able to flash decent levels of playmaking offensively and creativity with the puck on his stick, and is incredibly athletic, fantastic skater. There's so much to like in his game. I mean, he ended up being the second defenseman that we have ranked behind the next guy that we're going to be talking about here. But there's a lot that we like with his overall projection, but he lacks the elite level of skill of the players that we do have ranked in the following 6 slots here. And I don't think either of us is particularly confident in him becoming a slam dunk number 1 defenseman. We both think that there's a chance of that happening, but it's far from a certain bet. So even him having been a second overall selection, we still think that a number 2, number 3 role long term in the NHL is a bit more likely, and that has him kept outside of our top 5 range. But talk us through our top ranked defenseman. And this is a player who was drafted in the mid rounds multiple years ago in Alexander Nikishin of the Carolina Hurricanes, who's been playing fantastic hockey as the captain for SKA St. Petersburg in recent seasons.
Absolutely. For such a young player to be the captain of a KHL team that doesn't give opportunities to young players willy-nilly is absolutely amazing. Nikishin is a big left shot defenseman. He was drafted by the Carolina Hurricanes in the mid rounds, I think in 2019. It's been a while since he was drafted, or maybe it was 2020 or 2021. But yeah, it's been a couple years since he was drafted, and his progression has been just, I mean, he's skyrocketed up all boards, and he's been absolutely amazing. He's like flirted with a point per game during a couple months of the season with SKA. Like he's looked really, really good in a pro league in the KHL. And yeah, he's looking like another one of these Russian steals from the Carolina Hurricanes. They've had a lot of success with these in recent years. They've been adding plus value talent left and right in the KHL for the past couple of seasons. And yeah, I mean, just the defensive game with him is fantastic. He's a two-way defenseman, but I really, really like his ability to shut down play, to keep opponents out of his zone. He loves to activate off the puck and find little pockets of space on the weak side in the offensive zone to kind of tap a puck into an open net or that kind of thing. Very active, very intelligent, very forethought and anticipatory as a defenseman, which is a lot of the things I really, really like with defensemen. So overall, Nikishin's already looking like a top 2 or 3 KHL player right now. and could become a number one, number two defenseman in the NHL. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, given how steep his progression has been and how well he's developed. But let's move right on to number 5 here in our rankings, and that's Caden Lindstrom, the 6'4", 215-pound left shot center from the Medicine Hat Tigers, the 4th overall selection of the Columbus Blue Jackets. And with Lindstrom, I mean, I shook his hand at the draft, and I was looking like way up. Like he's a massive dude, but also so kind, so sweet, has time for everyone. Like really psyched and excited to be just an NHL player. Such a great human being by all accounts, including mine, having talked to him briefly. Like he's an amazing human being on top of just being a monster on the ice. Once you get him on the ice, it's like a flip switches and it becomes the most just gnarly, just absolutely like almost disrespectful player. Like he'll cross check you in the ribs between whistles. Like he's mean. Loves to throw the body, but also is an amazing goal scorer, great handler, great passer. He's still raw in terms of his habits and decision making, but for a big guy at such a young age, that's normal. I think he's going to take a bit more time to make the NHL, but man, does he look exciting. But talk me through the final of 3 Boston College players who play on the same line. At number 4th overall here, we have a San Jose prospect by the name of Will Smith. Why do we like him so much?
Elite offensive talent.
Yep.
It boils down to that. There's definitely still some holes in Will Smith's game, and I think that he's going to have a slightly bumpy ride in his introduction to the NHL and the pace of play and the pressure physically at the NHL level. But Will Smith is tremendously intelligent. He's probably the best playmaker from the 2023 draft class, not named Connor Bedard. Even like over Zach Benson, I think a year out, we can probably make that claim as well. But it's between those two guys for the second spot. But fantastic playmaker, so intelligent. Really nifty with how he's able to solve problems in the offensive zone. Really fantastic puck handler as well. He's as dangerous as he is, like as a shooter and a goal scorer as he is as a playmaker as well, even though he favors playmaking over goal scoring a little bit. And overall, a player who just tore up the NCAA as a freshman. And it certainly helped that it was in Boston College with players that he was familiar with playing with. But he still stood out as when he was on his game, he was the best player on that team, and it wasn't particularly close. He wasn't always the best player on that team because there's still consistency issues in his game.
And Cutter Gauthier and Ryan Leonard.
And Cutter Gauthier and Ryan Leonard and Gabe Perreault and Jacob Fowler. There's a lot of talent in that lineup. But overall, Will Smith still projects as an elite level, like top line caliber player. He might end up as the 2C in San Jose. Maybe he ends up on the wing complementing Macklin Celebrini long term, which would be fantastic as well. But there's so much to like in his offensive projection, much like the next player here on our list in Matvei Michkov. What makes him our 3rd best prospect league-wide?
Just the most unconventionally effective goal scorer I've ever scouted. Just the way that he just finds little nooks and crannies to just jam pucks into from in tight is ridiculous. 6 feet around the net, he's the best prospect in the entire NHL world. Like there's no one who does it as effectively as him 6 feet around the net. But on top of that, he's a confident scorer. He can shoot from anywhere, and he's confident in his ability to just put it in the back of the net. I think that's what makes him really special. On top of his processing of his game offensively, the ability to read the game at a high speed, at a high level. There's a reason he played like basically full-time KHL minutes in Sochi in his draft year. Even though that's not the highest level of competition in the KHL, it's still a step up on the MHL for sure. But yeah, overall, I think that with Michkov, you've got so much to work with offensively. I think the defensive side of his game, it's a bit of the same story as Yzerman, where he's not just a non-factor, he's kind of a liability. But if you can get him just to be a non-factor, just to be just effective enough defensively to at least like get the puck more, you're getting a really, really, really solid NHL player. We're talking like top 10 in the NHL potentially, top 5 in goal scoring. Like there's really high upside here with Michkov. I think that the Flyers got a steal there at 7th overall in the 2023 draft. Let's move right on to number 2 here with Ivan Demidov, a prospect the Canadians just added a 5th overall in the 2024 draft. And we're talking about top 25 NHL prospects who haven't played a game yet. And he's at 2nd overall on our list. So that tells you how high we both are on him. Demidov is the definition of creativity on top of being the best stick handler I've ever scouted. I started scouting in 2019 in Jack Hughes' draft year. He's the best stick handler I've ever scouted. I think you'd agree with that, right?
I would. I think that we're both on the same page when it comes to Ivan Demidov, and he's so much more than just those elite level tools. I mean, he's a fantastic goal scorer. He's incredibly intelligent. He's able to process and read play quicker than almost any other prospect as well that I've ever scouted. Like his intelligence is really what allows his elite level tools to function together in the way that they do, which is a really unique way that he's able to tick as a hockey player. And he has a high motor as well. He gets involved defensively. He's very competitive, played his best hockey this season in the playoffs. There's so much to like here. I think he's going to be an elite level talent at the NHL level long term. I think that this guy has 120 plus point upside. I think he's going to be a first line piece in Montreal for the next decade and a half, 2 decades. And I think he's exactly what the Habs were missing with the core that they've been building. They've been building a fantastic foundation for a team moving forward, but they were missing that spark plug, the offensive spark plug that you can just put out on the ice and just know that something is going to happen. Demidov is that guy, and I think Habs fans are deservedly elated about this addition. But let's cap off the episode here with perhaps the least surprising ranking in this entire show, Macklin Celebrini at number 1. Talk us through why he's so great at hockey.
I'll keep it easy and simple since the episode's running long. He is the best rush chance creator I've ever scouted. Ahead of Bedard, ahead of basically anyone else. It's less about the skill that he puts into it. It's less about like pure speed or handling skill or just, creativity. It's a lot more about just the refinement of his decisions and how he always makes the right decision that leads to an offensive chance from the slot, regardless of what happens. If the defensemen in front of him are stepping back, he'll challenge them. He'll kind of skate right at them in order to get them to kind of anchor their feet before using them as a screen. If they attack him aggressively, he passes around them, finds an outlet, and then repositions off the puck, off the rush in order to get the puck back in the slot. Everything he does is just so refined in terms of rush scoring, and he's just added layers upon layers upon layers to his defensive game, his cycle play, his ability to play off the boards, physicality. He's a really complete player. I think he's ready for top 6 minutes right away. I don't think that's really even that much of a controversial take at this point. I think that Celebrini's going to step right into the Sharks lineup and just be a top 6 force for them. I am so excited to see what he ends up being in the NHL, but I think it could be a 100-point kind of franchise-defining player who plays on your top power play, your top PK, plays 20, 25, 5-on-5 minutes for you. Like, he's got that potential. On top of having a great personality, great character, like he's got it all. He's got everything that NHL teams look for, and that's why he was picked first overall by the San Jose Sharks in the 2024 draft. And that finally wraps our episode up. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think of our rankings. And if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform, please leave us a rate and review and make sure to make us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today. They've got all your news and updates about what's going on around sports. And make sure to tune in for our next shows as we continue our prospect coverage for the month of July. This has been Hattie Kalakash with Sebastian High, and we hope you tune in next time.